Ethan Cole had spent 90 long days away from home, buried in meetings, presentations, and sleepless nights across 3 major cities. All he wanted was to return to his quiet suburb in Massachusetts and surprise his daughter Emily with the Christmas gift she'd been waiting for. Snow fell thick as he drove through the neighborhood, imagining her shy smile when she saw him at the door. He hoped she hadn't felt too lonely without him. She'd always been gentle, too soft for a world that didn't care much for softness. Ethan promised himself this trip would be his last long one. Emily deserved more than a father who was always boarding another plane. But when he turned onto his street, something felt off. The lights inside his house were blazing, yet the front yard looked strange, disturbed, like someone had run out in a hurry. Then he heard it, a choked sob carried by the wind. Ethan stepped out of his car, heart hammering. At first he thought it was an animal, until he heard a weak voice whisper, "Please, please don't do this." His blood froze. There, at the bottom of the front steps, sat Emily. His little girl, knees tucked to her chest, arms shaking, wearing only a thin sweater in the bitter snow. Her cheeks were red, her hair wet, her breathing uneven as if she had been crying for a long time. And standing above her, expression cold and impatient, was Clara, Ethan's wife, Emily's stepmother, holding the door halfway shut like she couldn't wait to close it. "Get up," Clara hissed. "I told you, you're not coming back inside until you admit what you did." Ethan didn't understand. Emily lifted her face, and the hopeless look in her eyes shattered him. She whispered, "Dad, she kicked me out." Clara spun around in shock. "Ethan, you're home early." But Ethan wasn't listening. Something crumpled in Emily's hand, a sealed envelope she seemed terrified to let go. He stepped closer, voice low. "Emily, what's in your hand?" Emily swallowed hard. It's from Mom." And the moment Ethan heard that, Emily Cole had always been the kind of child who spoke softly, moved gently, and believed people were kinder than they actually were. After her mother, Lily, passed away when Emily was only 6, the world seemed to grow colder around her. Lily had been the warm center of their small family. She cooked with Emily every evening, sang to her before bed, and left little notes in her lunchbox that said things like, "Be brave today, my sunshine." When she was gone, the house echoed with quiet. Too much quiet for a little girl who once lived in laughter. Ethan tried his best. He worked harder, thinking success would create security for his daughter, but the more he worked, the more he was away. Emily never complained, not even when he missed her school play, or when she woke up from nightmares alone. She carried her pain inside, folding it tightly the same way she folded her drawings and hid them in her backpack. Then Clara came. At first, Clara acted sweet, too sweet, bringing gifts, cooking dinners, pretending to care about Emily's hobbies. Ethan, exhausted and lonely, believed maybe this was the new start they needed. But things changed as soon as the wedding photos were packed away. Clara began pointing out Emily's mistakes, her messy handwriting, her quietness, her anxieties. The home slowly shifted. The warmth Lily once filled it with seemed to be replaced by rules, tension, and criticism. Ethan didn't notice. Clara was careful around him, always smiling, always kind, always acting like the perfect wife. But when he traveled for business, things were different. Emily learned to sense the danger in Clara's footsteps, the chill in her voice, the look in her eyes whenever Ethan wasn't there. She rarely told her father what happened, the insults, the isolation, the punishments. She was afraid he would think she was causing trouble. She was afraid he would think she wasn't strong enough, so she stayed silent. But tonight, something broke, something big enough for Clara to throw her out into the snow without hesitation. And when Ethan finally asked what Clara had been hiding, Emily whispered a truth that made his entire world tilt. When Ethan carried Emily back inside, the warmth of the luxurious home hit her frozen skin. But somehow the house still felt unbearably cold. Christmas lights glowed across the vaulted ceilings. A massive Christmas tree stood decorated in gold and silver, and the smell of cinnamon candles drifted through the air. Everything looked perfect, too perfect, like a picture in a magazine that no one actually lived in. It was nothing like the home Lily once filled with warmth and love. Clara stood stiffly near the staircase, her arms crossed, her expression a careful blend of surprise and annoyance. "I told her to wait inside," she lied smoothly, brushing invisible dust from her designer dress. "She ran out crying. You know how dramatic she gets?" Ethan ignored her, focusing on Emily. Her hands were trembling. He knelt beside her and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. "Sweetheart, you're freezing. Why didn't you stay inside?" Emily opened her mouth, but Clara cut in first. "Because she refuses to take responsibility, Ethan. She keeps making up stories, and I'm done with it. If she wants to act this way, she can stay outside until she learns some respect." Ethan stood slowly, his jaw tightening. "Respect? She's a child, Clara, and it's Christmas." For a moment, Clara's mask slipped. Her eyes flashed with something sharp, something almost triumphant before she forced a fake, wounded expression. "I'm just trying to keep this family together while you're constantly gone," she said. "I can't do everything alone." Emily clutched the envelope in her hand tighter, as if afraid Clara might snatch it away. Ethan noticed. "Em, what's in that envelope?" Clara tensed. Emily hesitated, glancing nervously at her stepmother. It came in the mail today. She didn't want me to see it." Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter air. "What do you mean she didn't want you to see it?" Emily lowered her voice. "She told me if I opened it, she'd make sure you never found out." Ethan turned sharply toward Clara, and that was when the hallway camera's tiny red light caught his eye. It was blinking, recording, capturing far more than anyone expected. Clara noticed Ethan looking at the blinking hallway camera, and for the first time that night, her carefully polished expression cracked. Her lips tightened, her breath hitched slightly, and a faint twitch pulsed at the corner of her jaw. Emily saw it too. She shrank a little behind her father, clutching the blanket and the envelope as if both were shields. The tension in the room thickened like fog. Ethan stepped forward. "Clara, is there something you want to explain?" She forced a laugh. "Explain? Ethan, please. I've been the only one taking care of this house while you're off in hotels and first-class flights. I've been the one holding this family together while your daughter does everything she can to tear it apart." Emily winced, but she didn't look away. Ethan noticed that. "What exactly has she done?" he asked, voice calm but edged with steel. Clara seized the opportunity. "She lies. She steals. She says horrible things to me when you're not around. Tonight she broke one of my jewelry boxes and then blamed me for it. I told her she needed to admit what she did. Instead, she ran out the door." Emily shook her head fiercely. "Dad, I didn't break anything. Clara snapped. "Don't you dare interrupt me." Her voice was sharp enough to cut the air. Ethan turned toward her, eyes narrowing. "Clara, lower your voice. She's a child." Clara pressed her lips together, trying to recover her composure. But the more Ethan questioned her, the more her irritation slipped through the cracks. "You always take her side. Always," she hissed softly. "I'm your wife, Ethan, but you treat me like an outsider in my own home." "This isn't about sides," Ethan said. "It's about what happened tonight." Clara's eyes flickered, calculating. "You weren't here, so don't pretend you know." Emily stepped forward suddenly, trembling but determined. "Dad, she wasn't mad about a jewelry box. She was mad because someone came to the door asking questions. Someone she didn't want you to know about." Ethan's breath caught. "What questions?" Emily swallowed hard. "He asked about money, and he said Clara owed him." And Clara's face drained of every last trace of color. Ethan gently guided Emily toward the living room couch, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. The envelope she clutched was wrinkled now from how hard she'd been holding it, as if she feared it might be taken from her again. Clara hovered near the doorway, frozen in place, eyes darting back and forth like an animal cornered with no escape route. The Christmas lights flickered across her face, revealing beads of sweat forming along her hairline. "Emily," Ethan said softly, "I need to see what's inside." Emily hesitated, then slowly handed him the envelope. Clara took an involuntary step forward. "Ethan, don't," she blurted. "It's nothing. It's private. It's not meant for you." "That's funny," Ethan replied, tearing the seal, "because it came addressed to my daughter." Inside was a folded letter, yellowed slightly with age. The handwriting was delicate, familiar. Ethan's heart twisted painfully when he recognized it. Lily's handwriting. His late wife. Emily covered her mouth, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Dad, I've never seen that before, I swear." Clara shook her head rapidly. This is ridiculous. It must be fake. Someone is trying to manipulate you two. But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. He unfolded the letter with trembling fingers. The first line hit him like a punch to the chest. If you're reading this, Emily, then someone kept this from you. Ethan's pulse quickened. Clara's breathing turned sharp and uneven. Emily leaned closer, desperate. He continued reading. I'm leaving this letter with the attorney so that when you turn 14, you'll receive what belongs to you. Ethan agreed years ago that everything I saved would go to you when you're old enough. Emily looked up. Mom left something for me. Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, a fund, a large one. Clara's voice cracked. Ethan, stop. You don't understand. But Ethan kept reading. The final line made him go cold. And if this letter never reaches you, it means someone has betrayed our family. Emily gasped. Ethan lifted his eyes toward Clara, who took a small step back, her face pale and lips trembling. Clara, Ethan said, voice dangerously calm. Why did you hide this? Clara didn't answer. Instead, she lunged forward, trying to rip the letter out of his hands. And that single desperate move exposed far more than she intended. Ethan jerked the letter out of Clara's reach, his breath sharp, his fury unmistakable. Clara stumbled, catching herself on the edge of the coffee table, eyes blazing with panic. The shimmering ornaments on the Christmas tree trembled slightly, as if even the house felt the tension flooding through it. Emily pressed against her father's side, still wrapped in the blanket, still shaking from the cold and everything that had just happened. Are you out of your mind? Ethan snapped. You tried to destroy a letter from her mother? Clara straightened, smoothing her hair with trembling fingers. I told you it's fake. Someone is trying to turn you against me. You're too blind to see it. Ethan stepped closer. Blind, Clara, this is Lily's handwriting. I know it better than my own. Clara's jaw clenched. Handwriting can be forged. Emily shook her head. You knew exactly what it was. You were terrified when he opened it. Clara shot her a glare so sharp Emily instantly lowered her eyes. Ethan noticed, and the sight cut into him. How many times had that glare been used on his daughter while he wasn't home? What else have you hidden from us? He demanded. Clara scoffed. Oh, please. I've been protecting this family from financial disasters you don't even know about. While you're gone, I'm the one dealing with everything. I'm the one trying to keep things together. Before Ethan could reply, his phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw the name flash across the screen. Attorney Harris. He answered immediately. Ethan, the attorney said, voice urgent. We need to talk. There's been suspicious activity in the family accounts, large withdrawals from Emily's trust. I'm afraid someone has been accessing it without authorization. Ethan felt the room tilt. Clara froze, lips parted, a flicker of terror flashing under her denial. Emily stared at her stepmother in disbelief. Dad, she always had the password. Clara's voice rose, too shrill now. This is ridiculous. They're lying to you. Everyone is lying to you. But then another sound split the air. A sharp knock at the front door. Ethan turned slowly, and Clara's face crumpled, as if she already knew exactly who was on the other side. Someone had come to collect the truth she'd been hiding. The knock came again, louder this time, echoing through the grand foyer like a judgment. Clara stiffened, her fingers curling tightly into the fabric of her dress. Emily flinched at the sound, instinctively leaning closer to her father. Ethan stepped toward the door, heart pounding with a mixture of dread and certainty. He unlocked it and pulled it open. Standing on the snowy porch was Mrs. Alden, their longtime neighbor. She clutched her phone in one hand, her expression filled with concern. Snowflakes settled on her coat as she stepped inside. Ethan, she said softly, I'm so sorry to come over like this, but I heard yelling, and I couldn't ignore what I saw earlier. Clara's voice cut through the air like a knife. You had no right to film anything. This is our private business. Mrs. Alden lifted her chin. It wasn't private when you dragged that child outside in the freezing cold. Emily stiffened. Ethan's hands curled into fists at his sides. You saw that? Mrs. Alden nodded sadly. I didn't just see it. I recorded it. She held out her phone. The screen showed a shaky clip, Clara grabbing Emily by the arm, shoving her onto the porch, yelling something hateful before slamming the door. The timestamp blinked clearly in the corner. Clara lunged forward. Delete it! You can't show him that! But Ethan stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Why would you do that to my daughter?" Clara's face contorted. "Because she deserved it. She disrespects me. She lies. She tries to turn you against me." "She's 14, Ethan snapped, "and she's my daughter." Mrs. Alden's voice softened. "That's not all, Ethan. There's more." She swiped to another video. "This was 2 weeks ago." In it, Clara was yelling, no, screaming at Emily for something as trivial as dirty shoes, while the girl silently cried. Ethan felt something inside him crack wide open. Clara's breathing quickened. "Ethan, please. She's making it look worse than it was." But her voice trembled. Her composure was slipping, dissolving like snow on warm pavement. Mrs. Alden looked at Ethan with sorrowful eyes. "I thought you should know what's been happening while you were away." Ethan turned slowly toward Clara, and in that moment, her expression said everything she couldn't hide anymore. She realized there was no escape left. Not even a lie could save her now. The living room, once warm with Christmas glow, now felt like a courtroom. The fireplace crackled softly, but no one seemed to notice. Ethan stood in the center, torn between anger, disbelief, and a rising sense of guilt that pressed so heavily on his chest, he almost couldn't breathe. He had trusted Clara. He had trusted that marrying her would bring stability, maybe even comfort back into his daughter's life. But the evidence piling around him told a different story, one he could no longer look away from. Clara paced in tight circles, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor. "You're letting them twist everything," she cried. "You weren't here, Ethan. You don't know what she's like when you're gone." Emily flinched at the accusation. "Dad, I didn't do anything she said. I promise." Ethan looked at her, really looked. The fear in her eyes, the exhaustion, the deep hurt, none of that could be faked. And suddenly he saw the truth he had missed for so long. But Clara wasn't done. She pointed a shaking finger at Emily. "You see? She's manipulating you. She always plays the victim. Stop," Ethan said quietly. Clara froze. "I want the truth. All of it." His voice was steady but edged with something dangerous. Emily swallowed hard. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Dad, when you were gone, she came into your office a lot. She would unlock your drawers. She looked through your papers. And once, she opened your safe." Ethan's stomach dropped. "My safe? How would she—" "She watched you enter the code once," Emily whispered. "Then she wrote it down." Clara spun toward her. "You little liar!" Ethan stepped between them instantly. "Clara, don't even think about it." Emily's hands twisted in the blanket. "She took documents, and she talked to someone on the phone afterward, a man. She didn't know I was listening." Clara's expression twisted with panic. "That's not true. She's making it up." But Ethan saw right through the desperation in her voice. "What documents?" he asked. Emily hesitated. "The ones with my name on them," she said. Ethan's blood ran cold. "And the person she was talking to," Emily continued, voice barely above a whisper, "kept saying the same thing." She looked up at her father, eyes wide. "He said he wanted his money, and Clara promised she'd get it. From you." Ethan felt a coldness creep into his bones that had nothing to do with the winter air. The room seemed to shrink as Emily's words echoed inside his mind. Documents with her name, a man demanding money, Clara promising she'd get it from him. Every puzzle piece he'd ignored for months suddenly snapped together with brutal clarity. Clara's face twisted in outrage, but her voice quivered beneath the surface. "You're believing a child over your own wife? She's confused. She doesn't know what she heard." Emily shook her head firmly. "I know exactly what I heard." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, heart pounding. "Clara, if you access my safe without permission—" "I said I didn't," she screamed. The pitch of her voice cracked. "Why don't you ever trust me?" "Trust?" Ethan fired back. "Trust is built on honesty, and right now, nothing about you looks honest." Before Clara could snap back, Ethan's phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a call, just a notification, a security alert from his bank. His blood ran colder. He opened the message. "Suspicious activity detected in account. Emily Cole Trust Fund." His throat tightened. He read further. "Multiple withdrawals over the last 6 months, all authorized with his secondary passcode, a code only 2 people knew, him and Clara." Emily whispered, "Dad, is something wrong?" But before Ethan could answer, another buzz came, an email from the bank's fraud department. He clicked it open. And there she was, captured clearly on the bank's security camera. Clara, wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, and a scarf, unmistakable, approaching the counter with forged documents, signing Emily's name. His stomach dropped so fast he felt dizzy. He turned the screen toward her. "Explain this." Clara gasped, stumbling backward. "That's not me. You know how easy it is to fake footage. Someone's framing me. Ethan, please." But her voice trembled so violently it was useless. Her eyes flicked toward the door, calculating escape. Emily stared at her stepmother, horror dawning. "You stole from me?" Something inside Ethan finally snapped. The quiet, controlled man replaced by a father fueled by fury. "Clara," he said, stepping forward, "what else did you take?" Her breath hitched. And in that split second of hesitation, Ethan realized she'd taken far more than money. She'd stolen years of his daughter's safety. For a long moment, the room was silent except for the soft hum of the heater and the faint crackling of the fireplace. Clara stood rigid, breathing shallow, her gaze darting between Ethan and the front door as if weighing the odds of running. Ethan's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, something unexpected happened. Emily stepped forward, not hiding behind her father, not curling into herself, but stepping out, small, trembling, and brave. "Dad," she said softly, "there's more." Ethan turned, brows furrowing. "More?" Emily nodded, clutching the blanket around her shoulders. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. I didn't tell you everything. I was scared you wouldn't believe me." Clara scoffed. "Of course she didn't. She lies like breathing." Emily lifted her chin. "No, I was scared because she told me you'd blame me." Ethan's expression broke. Guilt, pain, regret. "Sweetheart, you can tell me anything." Emily reached into the pocket of her pajama pants and pulled out something small, a silver USB drive. Ethan blinked, confused. "What is that?" Emily swallowed. "I found it in her desk last week. She didn't know I saw. I wasn't trying to snoop. I was looking for my sketchbook because she hid it again." Clara's eyes widened. "Emily, don't—" But Emily continued. "When she left the room, I grabbed it. I thought maybe it was important. I didn't know what to do with it, so I kept it. I was scared to plug it into anything, but—" She stepped closer to Ethan. "I think it has things she didn't want you to see." A muscle jumped in Clara's cheek. "That's a felony! She stole my property!" Ethan shot her a glare that made her flinch. "Sit down, Clara." She didn't move. Emily looked up at him, tears forming but not falling. "I didn't want to make things worse, but she said if I ever told you anything, she'd make sure you didn't come home again." That sentence ripped through Ethan like a blade. He knelt in front of her, gripping her shoulders gently. No one is ever taking me from you." Behind them, Clara's mask shattered completely, because she knew exactly what was on that USB. And the terror in her eyes confirmed Emily had just exposed the key to everything. Ethan held the tiny USB drive between his fingers, feeling its weight, or rather the weight of everything it represented. Emily watched him with wide, anxious eyes, her small hands gripping the blanket like she was afraid she'd be punished for even possessing it. Clara, on the other hand, looked like she was made of stone, a cold, cracking stone about to split apart. "Let's see what's on it," Ethan said, heading to his office computer. Clara lunged forward. "Ethan, no! You can't! Those are private files!" Ethan turned sharply. "Private files you hid from me? Files my daughter had to steal because she was terrified?" He shook his head. "Sit down, Clara. We're done with secrets." Her chest rose and fell rapidly, but she didn't move any closer. Emily followed her father into the office, staying close as he inserted the USB. The screen lit up with a folder labeled Insurance Docs. Ethan clicked it, only to find a series of audio files instead, over a dozen of them. He opened the first. Clara's voice filled the office, unmistakable, venomous. "I'm telling you, once the girl is out of the picture, everything falls into place. He'll be too distracted to notice anything." Emily gasped. Ethan's breath left him in a slow, devastating exhale. Another file, Clara again. "I already took the documents from his safe. We'll move the money in small amounts. He won't see it until it's too late." Emily clutched her father's sleeve. Then Ethan clicked on the longest file. And that was when everything shattered. Another voice joined Clara's, a voice Ethan knew instantly, one he never expected. His brother Ryan. Ryan's tone was low, impatient. "If we don't push her out soon, she'll ruin the whole plan. That kid is a problem. Do whatever you need to do." Ethan felt as if the ground beneath him had disappeared. Emily grabbed his hand, sensing the storm forming inside him. He replayed the clip just to be sure, but there was no mistaking it. Clara had been plotting with his own brother against him, against his daughter. Clara's voice chimed in again, smug and cold. "Don't worry, Emily won't be around much longer." Ethan's hands curled into fists. He turned toward the doorway. Clara stood there, pale, shaking, caught. And in Ethan's eyes, for the first time, she saw exactly what she feared most, a father who would burn the world down to protect his child. Clara stood frozen in the hallway, her face drained of color, her breath shallow and jagged. She had expected anger from Ethan, maybe shouting, maybe accusations, but not this. Not the absolute stillness in his eyes, the kind that comes before a storm so violent nothing survives in its path. Emily stayed close behind him, her small hand clutching his shirt with quiet fear. Ethan rose slowly from his chair. "My own brother," he said, the words scraped raw. "You planned this with my own brother." Clara stumbled back a step. "Ethan, listen, I can explain." "No," he snapped. "You've explained enough." But before she could retreat further, the front door opened. All three turned. Ryan stepped inside, brushing snow from his jacket as if it were any other night. He froze when he saw Ethan's expression. His eyes flicked to Emily, then to Clara. Something in his face wavered, guilt, dread, calculation, before he forced a thin, strained smile. "Ethan," Ryan said quietly, "we need to talk." Ethan walked toward him slowly, each step heavy with betrayal. "We sure do." Clara moved behind Ryan like he was a shield. "Don't let him twist things," she whispered frantically. "He doesn't understand." Ryan held up a hand. "Clara, stop!" He had always been the smoother talker, the charmer, but tonight, charm couldn't save him. Ethan shoved the computer monitor toward him. "Listen." Ryan hesitated, then the audio played. His own voice filled the room, damning, undeniable. Clara squeezed her eyes shut. Ryan clenched his jaw. "Ethan, I needed the money. I was drowning. You wouldn't help." "You never asked." Ethan's voice was deadly calm. "You always had everything," Ryan shot back, bitterness cracking through. "The business, the house, the perfect daughter." Emily flinched, tears gathering. Ethan stepped forward, towering over his brother. "Say her name with respect." Ryan swallowed hard. "This wasn't supposed to go this far," he murmured. Clara said, "Don't you dare finish that sentence," Ethan warned. Clara gripped Ryan's arm. "We can fix this. He has no proof." Ethan pointed at the screen, voice cold as steel. "I have everything." Ryan's face fell. Clara's lips parted in horror, and Emily, with trembling courage, whispered, "Dad, what are we going to do to them?" The air in the living room thickened until it felt almost impossible to breathe. Snow tapped softly against the windows, but inside the house, everything was sharp edges and rising tension. Clara and Ryan stood shoulder to shoulder now, not out of loyalty but out of shared panic. Ethan positioned himself between them and Emily, shielding his daughter instinctively, his stance rigid, jaw clenched. "Ethan," Ryan began, voice shaking despite his attempt to sound calm. "You need to understand. We were desperate. Clara said you'd never noticed the withdrawals. She said you didn't check the trust fund. She said—" "Clara said," Ethan repeated with a bitter laugh. Amazing how this plot seems to revolve around what Clara said. Clara's face twisted. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." Emily stepped forward, surprising even herself. "So you admit it?" Clara turned toward her, eyes burning. "You ruined everything." But the moment she took a step toward the girl, Ethan snapped, "Don't move." Clara halted. Ryan raised both hands. "Look, Ethan, we can work something out. No police, no lawyers. We'll put the money back, all of it. Just let us fix this." "You can't fix this," Ethan said. "You stole from my daughter. You threatened her. You plotted to remove her from her own home." Ryan swallowed hard. "We just needed time." Ethan's voice fell to a low, dangerous whisper. "Time for what? For her to disappear?" Ryan looked away. That was all the answer needed. Emily's breath shook. Ethan heard it and stepped slightly back to rest his hand on her shoulder. "You're safe," he murmured. Then he looked at his brother again, really looked. The man he grew up with. The man who once protected him on the playground. The man who now conspired to destroy everything Ethan loved most. "How could you," Ethan whispered, "do this to your own family?" Ryan's lips parted, but no words came out. Clara spoke instead, desperation dripping from every syllable. "Ethan, please, don't ruin our lives over a mistake." "A mistake?" Ethan thundered. "You call this a mistake?" The room trembled with the force of his rage. Ryan flinched. Clara stepped back, and Emily, gripping her father's hand, felt something shift, finally, irrevocably. The moment had come when the villains realized this time they would not walk away untouched. The room felt like it was vibrating with unspoken fury. Ethan stood tall, his breath steady but his eyes burning like wildfire. Clara and Ryan, once confident schemers, now looked like cornered animals, panicked, desperate, ready to claw their way out if they could. Emily gripped her father's hand as if letting go would pull her back into the nightmare Clara had built around her. "Sit," Ethan ordered. Neither moved. "I said sit." His voice cracked like a thunderclap. Ryan dropped onto the couch. Clara lowered herself slowly, trembling, her mind spinning so fast her eyes darted uncontrollably. Ethan didn't sit. He stood before them like a judge delivering the verdict. "You two plotted behind my back," he said, voice low but lethal. "You stole from a child, my child. You invaded my office, forged documents, coordinated lies, manipulated bank records. You tried to break her spirit. You tried to remove her from her own home." His gaze sharpened. "And for what? Money?" Ryan exhaled shakily. "It wasn't just about money." Ethan stiffened. "Then what was it?" Ryan hesitated, but only for a moment. "Clara said, if Emily was gone, everything you built would fall to her, that she'd be the one beside you for life, that your daughter was just holding you back." Emily's breath caught. Clara snapped. "You idiot, why would you say that?" "Because it's true," Ryan exploded. "You said the girl was in the way. You said you deserved the life Lily had. You said Emily didn't belong here." Ethan felt something inside him break, not into pieces, but into purpose. Clara paled instantly, scrambling for another lie. "He's twisting everything. I never said that, Ethan. I swear." Ethan leaned in, voice calm in a way that chilled her deeper than shouting ever could. "Then tell me why, in your own recording, you said she wouldn't be around much longer." Clara's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her throat worked uselessly. Emily, trembling but brave, stepped forward. "Dad, she hated me. She wanted me gone." Clara's silence was her confession. Ethan nodded slowly. "I know, sweetheart, and now everyone will know." Clara's eyes widened. Ryan swallowed hard. Because Ethan reached for his phone with steady certainty, ready to expose every secret they thought they had buried. Ethan held his phone like it was a weapon forged from every ounce of betrayal, every sleepless night he'd been away, every tear Emily had cried in silence. Clara and Ryan watched him with widening eyes, both realizing the same terrifying truth. This was the moment Ethan Cole stopped being patient, stopped being forgiving, stopped being blind. "Ethan," Clara whispered, voice cracking, "whatever you're thinking, don't. We can handle this as a family." "Family?" Ethan repeated, almost laughing. "You don't get to use that word." Ryan leaned forward, palms raised. "Okay, listen, maybe we crossed lines. Maybe things got out of control. But calling the police? Ruining both our lives? You don't want that." Ethan's gaze sharpened. "You plan to ruin mine." Clara stood abruptly, panic overriding her pride. "I can fix it. I can return the money, all of it. We can start over. You and me, Ethan, without her." Emily flinched so hard Ethan stepped instinctively in front of her. "Don't say another word," he growled. Clara clasped her hands, desperate. "She replaced me, Ethan. Every time you looked at her, I could see it. You wished I was Lily." "And you thought hurting her would bring Lily back," Ethan snapped. Clara's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, but she couldn't answer. Ryan rose slowly, voice softer than before. "Brother, please. I made mistakes. I know that, but I'm still your blood." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Blood is loyalty. You lost that the moment you threatened my daughter." Ryan's face crumpled. Emily stayed close behind Ethan, but this time there was no fear, only the steady, growing sense that her father was finally fighting for her. Ethan lifted his phone. "I'm done protecting people who tried to destroy us." Clara lunged toward him. "Ethan, don't!" He stepped back, letting her stumble onto the carpet. He pressed one button. Recorded audio files uploaded to his attorney. Video footage forwarded. Bank statements attached. Prepared message sent to the police. Clara's scream ripped through the room. "No! You can't do this!" But Ethan stared down at her, eyes cold. "You already did this," he said. Ryan sank onto the couch, defeated. And Emily, heart pounding, watched the woman who tormented her finally unravel. Because justice, real unstoppable justice, had just begun. The silence after Ethan sent the evidence felt heavier than the winter storm rattling the windows. Clara stared at him in disbelief, her chest heaving like she couldn't pull in enough air. Her carefully built world, one crafted from charm, manipulation, and lies, was collapsing right in front of her, and for once, she had no script, no excuses, no sweet words left to hide behind. You reported me?" she whispered, voice cracking. "After everything I've done for you?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Everything you've done for me? Clara, all you've done is exploit my absence and hurt my daughter." Clara's eyes darted wildly around the room, searching for something, anything to cling to. "I built this home. I kept it running. I stood by you while you worked non-stop." Emily spoke softly but firmly. "You stood on me, not by him." Clara snapped toward her. "You ungrateful little—" "Clara," Ethan warned, his tone dark enough to freeze her mid-sentence. Ryan rose shakily, rubbing his temples. "Ethan, maybe just let us leave. No police, no charges. We'll disappear. You'll never see us again." Ethan shook his head. "Running is the one thing you don't get to do." Clara's breathing quickened. "You can't keep us here." "I don't have to," Ethan said. "They're already on their way." As if on cue, blue and red lights flashed faintly through the frosted windows. Clara's knees buckled. No, Ethan, please, I can't. My record, my career. This will destroy me." "You tried to destroy my daughter," Ethan replied, voice ice cold. "Consider this balance." Clara crawled toward him, gripping his pant leg like a drowning woman clinging to driftwood. "I can change. I can be better. I'll get therapy. Whatever you want, don't let them take me." Ethan pulled his leg away. "You made choices. Now you face them." Emily stood beside her father, quiet but steady, watching the woman who tormented her finally lose all power. A frantic pounding came at the door. "Please, open up!" Clara's scream echoed through the house one last time, and Ryan, pale and shaking, whispered, "We're finished." The pounding on the front door grew louder, each thud echoing through the house like a final verdict. Clara's breathing turned ragged, almost hysterical. Ryan stood frozen beside her, pale as the snow outside. Ethan took a slow breath, steadying himself. For the first time in a long time, he felt clarity. Not the sharp, painful kind, but the kind that comes when truth finally pushes through the darkness. He opened the door. 2 officers stepped inside, snow clinging to their jackets. Their radios crackled softly as they surveyed the tense room. Clara crouched on the floor, mascara streaking down her face. Ryan trembling beside the couch. Emily holding onto her father with a mix of fear and relief. "Mr. Cole?" the lead officer asked. "Yes," Ethan replied firmly. "I'm the one who filed the report." Clara scrambled to her feet. "Officers, please, you don't understand. This is all a big mistake. My husband is confused. He's upset. It's Christmas, for God's sake." Emily flinched at the desperation in her voice. Ryan raised his hands weakly. "Look, we can explain." But the officer cut them off. "We've received corroborating evidence from Mr. Cole's attorney, from the bank, and from a neighbor." He held up a tablet. "There are video recordings showing Miss Clara Cole physically assaulting a minor, audio files discussing financial fraud, and identification from the bank security system." Clara's world collapsed in an instant. "No," she whispered, shaking her head violently. "No, this can't happen. Ethan, make them stop. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. Tell them." Ethan didn't look at her. "Take them," he said quietly. Clara let out a guttural cry as the officers moved toward her. She backed away, knocking over a lamp, screaming, "You can't do this to me. I made this family. She ruined us." Emily pressed her face into Ethan's side, trembling. Ryan didn't resist. He looked defeated, broken. He whispered, "I'm sorry, Ethan. I lost everything." "You lost yourself," Ethan replied. Handcuffs clicked. Clara shrieked as the officers pulled her upright, her glamorous facade torn apart. "You'll regret this, Ethan! You'll regret choosing her over me!" Ethan finally met her eyes. "I'm choosing what's right." As the officers led Clara and Ryan out into the night, Emily exhaled shakily. And for the first time in months, the house felt safe again. The police car's taillights disappeared into the snowy darkness, leaving behind a strange, heavy quiet. The kind that settles in after a storm, when everything is still standing, but nothing is the same. Emily clung to Ethan's coat, her breathing uneven, her small body still trembling from the chaos that had shattered their Christmas night. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, letting her feel the safety she had been denied for far too long. "It's over, sweetheart," he murmured. "You're safe now." Emily nodded, but her eyes were distant, haunted. "Dad, did I do something wrong? Did I make her hate me?" Ethan's heart cracked. He knelt down so he was eye level with her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear the way Lily used to. "You did nothing wrong, not one thing. Clara hurt you because of her own darkness, not because of anything you are." Emily bit her lip. "I missed Mom." "I know," Ethan whispered. "I did too." His eyes drifted toward the envelope sitting on the coffee table, the letter Lily had written 8 years ago, a gift meant to reach their daughter on her 14th birthday. Clara had tried to bury it, but it had found its way home tonight. Emily followed his gaze. "Can we read it again?" she asked. Ethan nodded and took the letter gently. They sat together on the couch, the Christmas tree glowing beside them. As Ethan read Lily's words aloud, words full of love, hope, and gentle strength, Emily leaned against him, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of fear. They were a release, a soft unraveling of years of quiet pain. When they finished, Ethan took a small box from the mantel, one he had recovered earlier that year from a pawn shop miles away. Inside was Lily's necklace, the one she wore every day, the one Clara had sold behind his back. Emily gasped. "Dad, is that—" "Yes," Ethan said softly. "It was your mother's, and now it's yours again." Emily touched the necklace as if it were something precious and fragile. "Thank you." As he fastened it around her neck, the weight of the night finally eased. Because the past was no longer missing. It was back where it belonged. And neither of them knew Lily had left behind one more secret waiting to be found. The house felt strangely peaceful now, the kind of peace that feels earned, like the quiet after surviving a long, violent storm. Emily sat curled against Ethan on the couch, still wearing Lily's necklace, gently rubbing the small charm between her fingers. The soft glow of the Christmas tree lights danced across her face, making her look younger, safer, almost like the little girl she used to be before loss and cruelty hardened her world. Ethan's eyes drifted again to the envelope. Something about the thickness had bothered him earlier. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. Emily watched him curiously. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "I don't think this is just one letter." Emily sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" Ethan carefully lifted the edges of the envelope. His fingers brushed against something hidden inside, something thin and folded. He gently pulled it out. Another letter. Emily gasped. "There's more?" Ethan's heart ached at the handwriting. Lily's unmistakable script flowed across the page, tender and familiar. "She wrote you 2 letters," Ethan murmured. "One for when you turned 14, and another for when life became too hard." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "Dad, can you read it?" He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. As he read, Lily's voice seemed to fill the room. "My sweet Emily, if you're reading this second letter, something has hurt you deeply. I wish I could be there to shield you, but know this. You are stronger than the world wants you to believe. You're gentle, yes, but gentle doesn't mean weak. Your father loves you more than life, and he will always fight for you. Do not hide your pain. Share it with him. He will never let you face darkness alone." Emily wiped her tears silently as Ethan read. "Your life will be full of storms and miracles. Trust the people who stand with you during both. And remember, my love, kindness is your greatest strength. Never let anyone take that from you." Emily whispered. She knew I'd need this." Ethan pulled her into his arms, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. She knew how strong you were going to be. Emily held the letter to her chest, her voice trembling. Dad, I'm ready to start over. And Ethan opened his mouth to respond when the phone rang with a call that would change their future forever. The unexpected ringtone sliced through the quiet room, echoing against the high ceilings. Ethan and Emily exchanged a glance, hesitant, alert. After everything that had happened tonight, any call could mean yet another problem waiting to erupt. Ethan reached for his phone, his thumb lingering over the screen when he saw the caller ID. Dad? Emily whispered. It's from the State Children's Foundation, Ethan said softly. The one your mother used to volunteer for. Emily blinked in surprise. Why would they call now? Ethan answered. Hello? A warm, gentle voice spoke through the speaker. Mr. Cole? I'm sorry to call so late on Christmas, but we've been reviewing your wife's old volunteer file. Lily Cole left something behind years ago, a request. Ethan froze. Emily pressed closer, gripping his arm. A request? Ethan asked carefully. What kind of request? The woman continued. Before she passed, Lily expressed interest in sponsoring an older foster child, someone close to aging out of the system. She filled out preliminary paperwork, but her illness progressed too quickly for her to finish. We found her file today while reorganizing holiday outreach lists. Ethan's breath wavered. Emily's eyes shimmered. The voice softened. We know tonight wasn't easy for your family, but Mr. Cole, would you consider fulfilling Lily's wish? There's a 15-year-old boy named Aiden who has no placement for New Year's. He's polite, hardworking, but he's been alone for a long time. Emily whispered, Mom wanted us to help him. Ethan swallowed hard. Yes, we're interested. Please send us the details. When the call ended, silence settled again. But it was different now. Not heavy, not frightening, hopeful. Ethan turned to his daughter. How do you feel about it? Emily smiled through lingering tears. I think Mom wanted our family to grow, and maybe Aiden needs a home like we do. Ethan pulled her into a deep, steady hug, the kind that promised everything painful was finally behind them. Then we'll give him one. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft and peaceful. Inside, the Christmas lights seemed to glow a little warmer, as if the house itself could finally breathe again. Clara and Ryan were gone. Justice was served, safety restored, and now, even after loss, betrayal, and heartbreak, something beautiful was beginning. Because this Christmas, a father protected his daughter, a daughter reclaimed her voice, and a new family started to form. A Christmas tragedy had become a Christmas reborn. And just like that, our story comes to an end. But if you are still here, listening, feeling, breathing with every moment until now, then something in this story must have touched your heart in a way words alone usually can't. And that means this message is meant for you. What happened to Ethan and Emily reminds us of something timeless. Truth always rises. Kindness is never weakness, and protecting the people we love is the deepest form of courage. The Stoics often taught that hardship doesn't break us, it reveals us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way." And in this story, the obstacles, the betrayal, the cruelty, the fear, became the very path toward healing, justice, and a new beginning. Maybe in your life, too, there are wounds no one sees. Maybe you're carrying more than you say. But remember this. You are stronger than the pain you survived. You deserve safety, love, and a place where your voice matters. Just like Emily did. Just like all of us do. So if this journey stirred something in you, take a moment to breathe. Let it remind you of your own light, your own resilience. And my wonderful friends, if you felt connected, moved, or healed even a little, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep walking through these powerful stories together. You being here means more than you know.